So it says, for instance, the situation can be remedied by eliminating this EEG surcharge. After all, the Bundestag, which is basically the German federal parliament, it's sort of the equivalent of like the US House of Representatives, I would say. The Bundestag has concluded that effective July 1st, the EEG surcharge on electricity is no longer necessary. In plain English, or I suppose plain German, im Klartext, this means that getting rid of the 3.723 cent surcharge saves a single household with a yearly electricity usage of 1,500 kilowatt hours, roughly 66 euros. It's not bad. I mean, it's not a substantial amount, but hey, you know, when times are tough, every Euro counts, you know? Eine Familie mit 5000 Kilowattstunde Stromverbrauch zahlt etwa 222 Euro weniger. Energieexperte Suttner. Quote, die erste Senkung der EEG-Umlage zum Jahreswechsel kam aufgrund der massiv gestiegenen Einkaufspreise nicht bei den Verbrauchern an. Geben Versorger die geplante Abschaffung der Ökostromumlage im Juli weiter, könnte ein 4-Personen-Haushalt beispielsweise um 222 Euro im Jahr entlastet werden. Für alle private Haushalte bedeutet die Abschaffung der EEG-Umlage eine Ersparnis von insgesamt etwa 5,1 Milliarden Euro. Einziger Wermutstropfen: den starken Anstieg der Energiekosten mildert das aber nur geringfügig. So, lastly, it says, a family using 5,000 kilowatt hours of power pays roughly 222 euros less. Energy expert Suttner says, quote, the first reduction in the surcharge at the turn of the year didn't really benefit consumers due to the massive rise in cost, or purchase price. Should suppliers do away with the green energy surcharge for July as well, this could result in savings of 222 euros a year for a 4-person household. The elimination of the EEG surcharge means a total savings of roughly 5.1 billion across all households. The only downside, this will only slightly mitigate the sharp increase in energy costs. Yeah, like I said, there's no doubt that everything going on in Ukraine right now is definitely exacerbating this whole situation. Obviously, Russia is the world's largest exporter of gas, and you know, that's a really unfortunate fact to acknowledge right now. And you know, we'll see if that remains the case after all the dust settles from this Angriffskrieg, you know, this war of aggression. I think it's something like, you know, half of all German households use gas for their heating, so you know, they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. You know, it's like, do you continue to allow Russia to supply your gas and effectively you're paying on Putin's terms, or do you stand up to Russia and say, you know, and you know, you have to be realistic when it comes to these solutions, because simply cutting off the supply of gas from Russia overnight, it is not feasible for Germany, or any nation for that matter. You know, from a political standpoint, from an optics standpoint, it's definitely, you know, beneficial for them to come out and say, oh, you know, we're cutting ties, we're not going to continue to financially support Russia, who's committing these atrocities, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, it's not that simple at all. You know, cutting Germany off from Russian gas would, in one way or another, bring about a recession in Germany. Now, Germany has basically come out and said that they're not going to quit cold turkey, so to speak. I think they're planning to gradually wean themselves off of Russian gas, perhaps over the next few years. I think they're looking to find ways to get gas from the US or the Middle East. And Putin is very astute with regard to the future of the business relationships between Russia and Germany, and all European nations for that matter. Because now Russia is demanding that European customers pay them in these very sketchy ways. They have to, make payments in certain currencies. They make the initial payment in euros, and then those are converted to, the Russian ruble. And the payments have to be made to a very specific lender, which is basically like a state-controlled lender. It's all very convoluted, and this is all because of the sanctions that were imposed by the EU. Again, these European countries are stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if they continue to make these payments to Russia, in these very sketchy ways that the Kremlin's demanding, it completely undermines the very economic sanctions that they've collectively, as a union, imposed to try and stifle Russia's financial footing. And the sad irony of all this is that Germany and all these other countries who continue to purchase gas from Russia are essentially subsidizing the Kremlin and subsidizing Russia's military forces. But again, they kind of have to walk that line of, standing up to Russia while also preserving the economic stability of their own citizens. I think over the years, the dependency on Russian gas is really what has put Germany and other nations in this situation. And I will say, I think, I've obviously been studying German for a while now. I've lived in Germany. Germany is a very upstanding country with high morals, and I'm confident that if they were in a position to completely cut themselves off from Russian gas, I do believe they would do it in a heartbeat. And it sounds like they are doing their best to wriggle themselves out of this chokehold that Russia has them in right now. And like I said, they're not going to break free overnight. That's just not how any of this works. But if they are one day able to, sustain themselves from an energy standpoint with alternative sources, whether that be the US or the Middle East or what have you, I think it'll serve as an example to other nations and maybe, inspire them to follow suit and stand up to Russia. That's going to come with a higher cost for sure, but it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off. Vielen Dank alle für das Zuschauen, and I will catch you in the next video. Happy Sunday.